What's up guys, and welcome back to a brand new video. And in today's video I'm gonna show you guys the predicted lineups for all 20 Premier League teams for the 24-25 Premier League season. But before I do that, I want to thank everyone that has helped me with this video, because I reached out to a lot of fans and a lot of experts to gain more information about every single club. So if you want to see who has helped me out with this video, check the description and follow every single one of them. Then I also want to add as well that if you spot any mistake during this video, leave a comment to correct me, because of course I spent several hours of doing research, reading articles and reaching out to people, so in that process I could have definitely made a mistake. Now with that being said, let's move over to the first team. That first team being no other team than AFC Bournemouth, who play in a 4-2-3-1 formation. And when we were looking at their goalkeepers, I've decided to go with Neto. There were some rumors that Travers could potentially take his spot, but I do think after preseason it is very likely that Neto will be the number one for Bournemouth. When we move on to their form and defense, not a lot has changed since last year, with the likes of Aarons, Zabarni, Senesi and Kerkez being the starters. Of course, they have picked up Dean Huijsen, who is an incredible talent and could potentially take one of those centre-back spots. Then moving on to the midfield, I've decided that Cook and Christie could get the nod over Scott and Adams, with Kluivert as their number 10 over Favre. On the left, the new signing Luis Sinisterra should start over Tavernier, with on the right Semenyo. Then now for the big striker, now that Dominic Solanke has left, they have Enes Unal and Jebison, but I do still think Bournemouth will be on the market to sign another forward. Now on to Arsenal, who play in a 4-3-3 formation under Mikel Arteta, and in net they have no other player than David Raga, who's now an official Arsenal player after signing from Brentford. Now in their forman's defense we have Ben White, Saliba, Gabriel and of course the newest signing Calafiori, but with the likes of Timber being fit, Kivior being on the bench and of course Tomiyasu, we could definitely see some rotation, especially when the Champions League starts to hit. Then onto the midfield, we got two 100% nailed starters when fit in the likes of Declan Rice and Ødegaard, and I've already speculated a transfer of Mikel Merino, who has been linked with Arsenal, but of course if he doesn't come to Arsenal we will potentially see Partey or Jorginho fill in that spot. Then for the front three, I decided to go with Starboy Bukayo Saka on the right, with through the middle Kai Havertz. We could potentially see Gabriel Jesus, but I think Havertz has done pretty well and should be starting. And on the left, it's a little bit of a tricky 50-50-ish situation, but I want to see Gabriel Martinelli over Trossard. Moving on from Arsenal now to Aston Villa, who heavily overperformed last year and got 4th, which means they will be playing in the Champions League. And with that being said, I think they will be heavily rotated. But when we're talking about the predicted lineup, I want to say Emi Martinez will definitely be their goalkeeper, with a form and defense of Matty Cash, Konsa, Pau Torres and of course new signing Ian Maatsen, who has come over from Dortmund after playing in a Champions League final. But behind Maatsen we have the likes of Digne and Moreno as well, who could potentially take his spot if he doesn't perform, but I do think Digne is likely to leave, so it would potentially be Maatsen or Moreno on that left back spot. Moving on to the midfield, I've decided to go with Bailey, Onana, Tielemans, Rodgers and McGinn, where I do think Tielemans and Onana will be favoured over Kamara and Jacob Ramsey, with Rodgers being favoured over Buendia. And then of course the main man up top, no other player than Ollie Watkins, who had a phenomenal season and if he stays at Villa should be 100% starting. Brentford will be the next team that we will be talking about, and they play in a 4-3-3 formation with Mark Vlekken in net, who has shown his class last year but also has a few errors in him. When we are looking at their four-man's defense, we see Roerslev starting over Aaron Hickey on that right back spot, with Collins and Pinnock as their centre back partner, with Ajer on the left. But Rico Henry is still coming back from injury, and I think once he is back he will be the main starter for Brentford, which could mean Ajer will be back at centre back instead of either Pinnock or Collins. I haven't figured that out yet. Then moving on to the midfield, we see Jensen, Norgaard and Janelt, but of course there has come some big news out today that Brentford has signed Fabio Carvalho from Liverpool, and I think once he is settled he will definitely be a starter for this Brentford team. I also think Damsgaard has a little chance of starting, but I have favoured Norgaard, Jensen and Janelt over him. Then when we move to the front three, we see Mbeumo on the right, Tony as the main man, with Wissa on the left as well, but they have a kid called Schade who's played a lot of minutes during preseason as well, and I think he definitely comes on from the bench but won't be a starter. Next on we have Brighton and Hove Albion, who play in a 4-2-3-1 formation with in between the sticks Bart Verbrugge, who is out for the first 3 game weeks of the Premier League, but once he is back fit he should be taking a spot instantly from Jason Steele and be the number 1 in goal for Brighton. When we look at the right back position, it is a little bit of a toss-up between Veldman and Hinsel, with both could start, but that could all change with the signing of Ferdi Kadioglu, who could be joining Brighton from Fenerbahce. Then the two centre-backs are 100% nailed, with the likes of Lewis Dunk and Jean-Paul van Hekken, with Igor behind either one of them. On the left, Barco should be starting this season because Estupiñán is still injured, but once Estupiñán is back fit, that could be a 50-50 as well. Moving on to the two CDMs, we see Wiever next to Baleba. Both are really good, which means Gilmore will be left on the bench. Now on the left mid position or left wing position, we will be seeing Mitoma, with on the right Minte, who is more favored than Simon Adingra, and Solly March still being injured for now. João Pedro will be taking that number 10 spot, with as the main man up front Danny Welbeck, who should be starting over Evan Ferguson. Already 1/4 of the teams done, and if you have been enjoying this video so far, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And with that being said, we are gonna move over to Chelsea, who was one of the hardest teams to predict the lineup for. Chelsea playing a 4-2-3-1 formation, and of course with a new coach, they've signed a new goalkeeper, they've signed a new cam, they've signed so many new players. But for me, Jurgensen will be the number 1 over Robert Sanchez, but honestly that could be a 50-50. We could see Sanchez starting as well. Then onto the right we have Reece James, in my opinion starting over Gusto if he is fit, but I think I've heard that Reece James is injured for the beginning of the season, which means Malo Gusto will be the starting right back, with on the left Marc Cucurella, who has had a phenomenal Euros of course. Then for the two centre backs, we see Levi Colwill next to their new signing from Fulham. I think his name is Tosin. I don't want to say his surname because I will definitely butcher that. But of course, they still have Badiashile and Fofana who could take those spots. And if Marc Cucurella isn't fit for the first game week, Colwill will be their left back. Onto the midfield, where we see Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo and Kieran Dewsbury Hall, who has come over from Leicester City after scoring 14 goals and 12 assists in the Championship. And I do think this is almost pretty nailed, with Caicedo being favored over Romeo Lavia. Onto the right, we have no other than Cole Palmer, who has been absolutely phenomenal and should be starting all day. With on the left, new signing Pedro Neto, who in my opinion slots instantly into this Chelsea team over Sterling, with as the number 9 Nkunku, who should be starting over Jackson all day, because Nkunku has had a pretty decent preseason and has shown his class, and now that he is back fit, he should be starting. Now on to Crystal Palace, who had a phenomenal end of last year's Premier League campaign because of one man and one man only, Michael Olise, who has now unfortunately left them for Bayern Munich. So it is exciting to see how Palace will be lining up during this Premier League season without him. In a 3-4-3 formation with no other than Dean Henderson in net and a 3-man defense of Joachim Andersen, Richards and Riyad in front of him. Of course, at the moment of recording, Mark Guehi is still a Crystal Palace player, and if he doesn't make a transfer, he will definitely be taking that spot from Richards, but I'm pretty sure he is going to leave Crystal Palace. Then for the right wing back, we have no other player than Daniel Munoz, who should be starting, and on the left wing back we have Tyrick Mitchell. Then for the two center mids CDMs type, we have Wharton and Kamada, who should be starting in my opinion, which leaves Hughes on the bench. And then for the 3 men up front, we see Sar, new signing on the right instead of Schlupp, who has played there in preseason, but I don't think he will be starting there during the Premier League, with as their main man Mateta, who should start over Eduard, and on the left, if he is still there at the end of the transfer window, no other than Eze, who should be starting instead of Ayew, but Eze still has a chance of leaving Crystal Palace, just like Olise. From Crystal Palace we move on to Everton, who play in a 4-4-1 formation under of course Sean Dyche, and Sean Dyche has to keep Everton up once again, and he will be doing that with the following 11. In my opinion, of course, Pickford will be their goalkeeper, with a 4-man defense of Coleman, O'Brien, Brentwaite and Mikolenko. Brentwaite of course has had a lot of rumors and could potentially still leave, but if he stays at Everton he will be the main man, next to new signing Jay O'Brien, who signed all the way from Lyon. Moving on to the former midfield, we have Lindstrom on the right with McNeil on the left, and McNeil has shown his class last year and should be the main starter once again, with Gueye and Garner as the two center mids. As the center forward type, we have Abdoulaye Doucouré, who should be feeding the balls to either Ndiaye or Calvert-Lewin, but with Calvert-Lewin and his injuries, you never ever know, and that is why I favored Ndiaye over him. Next on the list we have Fulham, who have made some very nice transfers during this transfer window, but I will be covering them in just a second. We are going to start with their formation, which is going to be a 4-2-3-1 formation with no other goalkeeper than Bernd Leno in between the sticks. For the right back it should be Castagne, because Tete is very likely to leave Fulham during this transfer window. As their left back we have Robinson, who has shown his class last year and is absolutely reliable and should be their main man if he stays, because there are some rumors that he could be leaving. Now for the two centre backs we have Issa Diop and of course Jorge Cuenca, who is one of their new purchases, who should be or maybe could be starting over Kelvin Bessie. Now for the two CDMs, I've decided to go with Lukic next to Emil Smith-Rowe, and the reason why I have Emil Smith-Rowe there is because with Andreas Pereira and Iwobi, either of those three could be starting in any of those 3 positions, so I don't know exactly who's going to start where, and that's why I have Emil Smith-Rowe there, because I'm very certain that all of those 3 will be starting for this Fulham team. So that means I have Lukic and Emil Smith-Rowe favored over Kearney and Reed. On the right wing, I've decided to favor or go with Harry Wilson instead of Willian, with as their main striker Rodrigo Muniz, who I personally really like and should be banging in some goals for Fulham this year, but of course they have a phenomenal striker behind him in Raúl Jiménez. Now it is finally time to cover one of the newly promoted teams with the likes of Ipswich Town. I don't know too much about them, but I will give you every single detail that I do know about them in the following minute. They have signed a new goalkeeper from Burnley with the likes of Muric, of course. He has Premier League experience and he should be their starter. Now for the right back position, we see Johnson, who should be pretty much nailed. He could be playing as their right back or right mid, and when that happens, Burns gets benched and we will be seeing Tuanzebe as the right back. On the left, we have Davies, who is pretty nailed, next to Greaves, and Wolf Vanden as the two centre backs. Now for the two CDMs, we see Luongo and the captain Morsi, who both should be nailed and starting as well, with as I said, Burns on the right, but he could be benched as well, with Omari Hutchinson on the left, who should be getting the nod over Harness, and with Chaplin and Delap for the front two, with Chaplin being kind of a false nine and Delap being the guy that needs to score the goals for Ipswich Town this season. From one promoted team to the other, from Ipswich to Leicester, who play in a 4-3-3 formation, with in between their sticks we got Hermansen, who should be starting over Iverson. Now for the right back position, we got Ricardo Pereira, who should be pretty much nailed, with on the left James Justin, who should be getting the nod over Christiansen. Now for the two centre backs, we got Wout Vaas and Yannick Westergaard, who should be the main starters, with Connor Cody being there as well. Then onto their three midfielders in that 4-3-3 formation, we got Harry Winks, Ndidi and Soumaré, but there is also a chance that we could see Choudhury get some minutes for this Leicester City team as well. Now for the three forwards, we have Mavididi on the left, Patson Daka through the middle because Vardy is still injured, and Fatavo on the right instead of Cordova Reeds. I'm not pretty sure, but I think Patson Daka could be injured for the first 4 weeks as well, and if that happens, we could see Mafididi as their number 9, with Fatavo on the right and Cordova Reed on the left. Now on to our 12th prediction, where we have to cover Liverpool right now, who should be playing in a 4-3-3 formation under Arne Slot like they did under Jurgen Klopp, with of course in net one of the best goalkeepers in the world, Alisson Becker. Now for their four-man's defense, there isn't anything special, with of course Trent Alexander-Arnold on the right, Robertson on the left if he is fully fit. Otherwise we will definitely see Tsimikas a little bit more than we used to, with Van Dijk as their main left centre back, with either Konate or Kwanzaa next to him. Now for their midfielders, we of course know they are looking for a number 6, which should be Zubimendi, and if he comes he will be starting 100%, and if not, Endo will be taking his spot. Then for the left centre mid and right centre mid, I've decided to go with Alexis McAllister and Szoboszlai. Especially Szoboszlai is a little bit iffy because he needs to perform this season, otherwise he will definitely get benched for Harvey Elliott. Now for the right wing spot, we have Mo Salah in his last year at Liverpool. He's looking sharp and he should be 100% starting. Now for the left wing position, it is a little bit more tricky. It should be a 50-50 between Gakpo and Diaz. I would prefer Gakpo after his wonderful performance at the Euros. And for the number 9 position, it's either Nunez or Jota. Both could be starting, but I prefer Darwin Nunez. Now from Liverpool, we are going to move to Manchester City, who of course play in a 4-2-3-1 formation under their main man Pep Guardiola, who absolutely loves to rotate. But for this predicted lineup, I've decided to go with of course Ederson in net, and for their four-man defense I'm going with Walker, Stones, Ruben Diaz and Gvardiol on the left. But of course with the likes of Akanji, Ake and Rico Lewis, they have some great substitutes on the bench, and everyone is going to make their minutes. Now onto probably the best midfield in the world, with Rodri, KDB and Foden. They should all be nailed, but of course because of their rotation, Kovacic will definitely make some minutes as well. Then on that left winger spot, I do think Doku will be the main starter this year, and again Grealish will be sitting on the bench. With on the right wing, we will be seeing Bernardo Silva, with a chance of Savio, their new signing, also getting some minutes. And of course as their number 9, the main man, the guy that needs to score the goals, Erling Haaland. Now we are going to move from one Manchester team to the other, and we are going to cover Manchester United, who play in a 4-2-3-1 formation as well under Erik ten Hag, with Andre Onana in net. When we are looking at their four-man defense, currently that will be Dalot, Maguire, Lisandro Martinez and Luke Shaw on the left if everyone is fit. But of course we know that United signed Yoro, and they are still in talks with Matthijs de Ligt and Nusair Mazraoui. And if both of them come to Manchester United, then we could definitely see Matthijs de Ligt slot into that right centre-back spot next to Lisandro Martinez, and we could potentially see Mazraoui either replace Dalot or be a backup for Shaw when he gets injured, because Dalot has been pretty decent and I don't think he needs any replacement. Then when we are moving to the two CDMs, we are definitely going to see Casemiro next to Kobbie Mainoo, who is incredibly talented and should be starting for Man United 100%, with as their number 10 of course Bruno Fernandes. Then on the left, I think Rashford will have his redemption season this year after a bad season last year, with on the right Alejandro Garnacho, who should be covering that right winger's position, with of course Amad Diallo being really close after having a really great pre-season. And then for the number 9, we could potentially see Zirkzee over Højlund, who is injured at the moment, but both of them could definitely start, but I prefer Joshua Zirkzee. Next on the list we have Newcastle United, who are gonna be playing in a 4-5-1 formation, with finally back from injury Nick Pope, who should be their main man in goal. Then for the four-man defense, currently it is going to be Trippier next to Schär, Dan Burn and Livramento, but we could also see potentially Sven Botman make a return in that centre-back position, and once Trippier leaves, we could see Livramento go to the right and Lewis Hall be a starter as the left back, or if Botman and Hall are both fit, we could potentially see Botman slot next to Schär and Dan Burn play as the left back, just like he did last year when Botman was fit. Now when we are moving to the midfield, we see Bruno Guimaraes, who's 100% starting, one of the most underrated midfielders in the league, next to Sandro Tonali and probably Joelinton. I know I have Willock and Joelinton swapped in here, but I do still think Joelinton will get the nod over Joe Willock. Then on the right we have Jacob Murphy, who should be starting, and on the left of course Anthony Gordon, who if he stays is going to be the main man at Newcastle, but if he leaves we will definitely see Harvey Barnes instead of him. And then for the main man up top, Alexander Isak, who is a phenomenal striker, and hopefully we can see a full season of Alexander Isak being fit. Now from Newcastle we are going to be moving to Nottingham Forest, who in my opinion have quite an interesting team in their 4-2-3-1 formation, with in my opinion one of the worst Premier League goalkeepers at the moment with Matt Sells. In the four-man defense we will definitely see Ole Aina next to Milenkovic, who is a new signing who came in from Fiorentina and is being called the new Vidic. Next to him we will definitely see the Brazilian centre-back Murillo, and on the left Nico Williams, who should be definitely starting on that left side. Now for the two CDMs we see Sangaré, who could be playing, but of course they have picked up Freuler as well, who could play on that position as well. Next to him should be Danilo or Dominguez, but I favored Danilo. Now for their front four we see Hudson-Odoi on the left with Elanga on the right, and of course Morgan Gibbs-White as their number 10. And for their number 9 position we see either Chris Wood or Avonici, but Chris Wood has definitely shown his class last year and could be the main starter instead of Tawani Avonici. Now on to Southampton, who of course came up through the promotion games and in my opinion do not have the best team for this Premier League campaign. But on paper they could be playing in a 3-5-2 formation or a 5-3-2 depending on how you look at it. For the goalkeeper position, McCarthy will be the starting goalkeeper until Bazunu is back from injury, but from what I've heard as well, they might go onto the market and get another goalkeeper in. Now for the three centre-backs, we will definitely see Harwood Bellis, who came from Manchester City, Jan Bednarek, who is kind of Premier League proven, next to Stevens as well. Then for their right wing back, they have Sugawara, who they signed from AZ and is definitely a quality right back, with on the left Taylor. I know Southampton have Carl Walker-Peters, but he hasn't been with them with preseason, so I don't expect him to start instantly, and he could still potentially leave. Then for the three centre mids we have Smallbone, Flint Downs and Aribo, and I do think Alcaraz will be sitting on the bench, but he could potentially get some minutes instead of Aribo, or maybe even new signing Flint Downs. Then for the two forwards we have Brenton, Diaz and of course Armstrong, who should be starting for Southampton, and hopefully they can stay up with this squad. Three teams to cover, and we have Tottenham Hotspur to cover now, who under Ange Postecoglou are going to be playing in a 4-2-3-1 formation with Vicario in net. And for the four-man defense, which in my opinion is actually quite a decent defense, Pedro Porro on the right, Udogie on the left, and two big centre-backs with Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven. Of course, they also have Dragusin, which means Udogie could be benched, Mickey van der Ven could be playing as the left back, but I think they will be starting with these four in the back. Then onto the next two centre mid spots, where they have four players who could play in those two positions, but I think Bissouma and Bentancur will get the nod over Sarr and Gray. Then for that number 10 position, there's really one guy for that job, and that will be James Maddison, with on the left of course Heung-min Son, Tottenham Hotspur's hero, which means Brennan Johnson will be left on the bench. Then if we're looking at that right winger spot, it could either be Kulusevski or Werner, but I do think Kulusevski, after a phenomenal preseason, is going to get that spot. And now for that number 9, we have Richarlison of course, but of course Spurs have now signed Dominic Solanke for 75 million, and he should be definitely starting for the Tottenham Hotspur squad. We are almost nearing the end, but we still have West Ham to cover now, who are going to be playing in a 4-2-2 formation, and they've made some incredible signings during this transfer window. In net, we won't be seeing Fabianski anymore, because Areola will be the main starter, and at right back we have their first transfer window signing in Aaron Wan-Bissaka, who's gonna join the Hammers this season. Then onto the center backs, we have Todibo and Kilman, who are both new signings as well, so almost a full new defense for West Ham with Emerson on the left. Of course, at right back we could see Koufal, and at left back we could maybe see Cresswell as well, with at center backs Aguert and Zuma behind Kilman and Todibo. Now for the two CDMs, we of course have Ward-Prowse and Rodriguez, who should be starting over Alvarez and Souček, but there could be some rotation there as well. Then onto the right wing, we have the West Ham star boy Mohamed Kudus, who has been amazing not only in preseason but also last year as well, with Lucas Paqueta if he doesn't get suspended. And if he does, they have Summerville, who could take that spot, with their two strikers, Jared Bowen, and of course the newly German striker Füllkrug. And just like that, guys, we've made it to the last team of this video, which is going to be Wolves, who are going to be playing in a 3-4-3 formation. But just a quick heads up for you guys that during preseason, Wolves have actually played in a 4-2-3-1 formation, which could also be an option for them this season. But I'm going to stick with the 3-4-3 formation, just like they did last year, with José Sa being their main goalkeeper already for quite some seasons, and he should be starting this year as well. Now for their three centre backs, I decided to go with Bueno, Dawson and Toti Gomez, who should be all starting, and they have Hugo Bueno, who could potentially get some minutes in as well. Now for that right wing back position, of course, they have Nelson Semedo with Matt Doherty behind him, and on the left, Ait Nouri should be the main man. Now for the two centre mids position, we have João Gomez, who should be starting next to Lemina, who had a great season last year as well, and new signing Tommy Doyle could potentially make some minutes as well. Now Jurgen Strand Larsen, who came in from Celta de Vigo, should be their main man at the number 9 position, with Mateus Cunha and Hwang Hee-chan moving around him, but also the likes of Pablo Sarabia and Rodrigo Gomez could definitely see the light of the field. With that being said, guys, hopefully you guys enjoyed this prediction video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if I've made any mistakes with any team so we can help each other out. And with that being said, guys, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Peace.